right, good. First thing I want to say before we get into this is, we get up here and we give you our best interpretation of what we're doing to try and help you the best we can. But there's no absolutes in fishing. And what I'm about to teach you guys right here, what we're about to talk about right here, this is not an absolute either. There are exceptions to everything in fishing. There's times when Ronnie does things that I don't think make sense and he catches them. And there's probably a lot of times when I do things that he don't think make sense and I catch them. So there's no absolutes in fishing. That's the most important thing to understand. Neither one of us are up here saying what we are saying is absolutely the gospel. This is the way you have to do it. We're just giving you what works for us. And knowing that, we're not the best fishermen in the world, we're fortunate enough to get to do it a lot, and we're trying to help you guys as much as we can.
It's like religion, law, and politics. It's just interpretation.
It's just interpretation. That's right. So what I want to talk to you guys about now, Ronnie talked to you about the technique that can catch you a big fish out here in the football jig tonight. And we talked a little bit briefly about finding these fish on your electronics. Now, when you find fish on your electronics, and I get this question, I know you do too. I get this question so much when we're graphing out deep with a customer, and they start seeing stuff. How many times have you had to, hey, what's that? And you go, it's nothing. It's nothing. Don't worry about it.
You want an exact number? It's like 785,000.
Yes.
Like that.
Like, there's so many things that these graphs will show you. It's important that you learn to interpret what you're seeing, be it brush piles on sonar or be it different species of fish, which is what we're going to really dig into tonight, is how to identify different species of fish. Who can tell me the best way to identify one species from another? Just what's a good rule to identify one species from another? Anybody got one?
How they're grouped up.
What'd you say?
How they're grouped up.
That is 100,000% the best way to tell. How they're grouped up. I also like to say how they are positioned on the structure. How they are positioned in relation to each other. The way that they school and the way that they behave on that structure, which your sonar will tell you, is the best way, in my experience, to identify what species that is. Notice I didn't say anything about width or height or any of that on the arcs. Didn't say anything about the size of the arcs. There's a whole lot of different species of fish that go to all different sizes. There's bass that are as big as your hand, and there's every species as big as your hand, and then there's about I don't know what we got. We got drum, catfish. Some of these white bass will be as big as largemouth.
Yeah.
Crappie out here get 3 and 4 pounds. So there's a lot of different species that can be the right size to give you the right type of arch to make you think, well, man, that might be some bass in there. But the way they position in that school is the #1 way to identify them. So I've kind of drawn out some examples. This one down here is going to be real obvious because it's on with a tree. And what's all them dots in a tree? Who knows what that is?
Crappie.
That's crappie. Them crappie love to hang out on a tree. But what crappie will also do is stack more vertically, which I'm not the greatest artist, but you can kind of tell right here how you have kind of a more narrow vertical. And I'll bring this around, have Ronnie bring this around. But if you look right there, you have more of a narrow vertical stack than some of the other things we've shown you. Now, let's see. You've been on trip with me. I don't know if we did electronics. I think we're shelved. You know what those are? No? Okay.
I don't either.
Anybody know what those are? This one right here?
Drum, catfish.
No? Huh? That's close. That's close. That's close. So, and part of it is my drawing skills that are misleading y'all. But sand bass will absolutely group up like that. But I tried to draw little tiny arcs because we have a bunch of in this lake is yellow bass or barfish. They're sand bass's little cousin. They're about the size of your hand when they're full grown. Most of them are. And bass love to eat these. But what they'll do is, I like to call it carpet. They'll create carpet across the bottom. They'll just be a thin line of tiny little arcs, or if you're on downscan, tiny little dots that are just hugged to the bottom. And that's typically what you'll see these yellow bass doing. Sand bass do something very similar. Up here we've drawn sand bass. And what that is basically the same thing. It's like carpet, it's just shag carpet. It's a little bit taller. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Okay, the big difference between bass and all these other species that we typically see, because there's catfish that'll group up, okay? There's drum that'll group up for sure. But typically, these are the 4 species you see the most of out here on Lake Fork on your electronics. On structure grouped up. The big deal with bass is they will get more spread out. They won't be, if you look at all these arcs when I pass this around, and you look at all these other ones, you look at how tight those little arches are together, that's the biggest difference. The sand bass, the yellow bass, the crappie, their arcs will almost, on your sonar, they'll like intertwine, where the arcs are like blending in together and it almost looks like a huge ball of shad, but it's way too big to be shad because the arcs are blended together on your 2D sonar. And then, you know, on your downscan, it's just dot, 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 dot. Whereas a bass will be a dot and a dot and a dot and a dot. Okay, that's the big deal, is the spread out and then the vertical. They'll get a little more vertical. Basically, what I tell people a lot is that's sand bass and white bass right there. See that? Everybody see that? Grab that board for it. That's fine. That's sand bass and white bass right there, okay? That's crappie right there. That oval, that's bass. If you see an oval and they're spread out in between, those are bass. Or freshwater drum, because freshwater drum look dang near identical to bass on a sonar, unfortunately.
And catfish will tend to sit on the bottom and not stack up. And
That's true.
And they'll spread out, you know. So if you got
if you don't mind,
big
you can
hump,
kind of pull
and then they'll be a lot bigger. So like if you pull up on a school bass that looks too good to be true, it's probably catfish.
That's a lesson you learned just this week.
Yeah.
Last week.
I also found some giant catfish.
We need to go catch them suckers, man. I don't know who's going to get them
I'll
off the
take
hook.
your money
'cause
right now on catfish.
Here's the deal. Neither one of us are going to touch a catfish, but I kind of want to. If I could just hook them and reel them in, I would love it.
Yeah, with a bobber. You think we can use a bobber in 20 foot?
That's a long lead.
I just want to see that. Bloop.
Yeah, something like that. But you know, that's kind of it. I mean, that's really how you tell the species apart. It's just the way they're positioned.
I'm going to send you guys a good image of some fish we caught yesterday.
Okay, there you go.
Don't go through my phone because my wife.
Yeah,
So, I don't know how good you guys can see that.
side imaging there.
This is side imaging, yeah. This is side imaging. And it's a
But
little grainy
again,
'cause we're taking
when you
pictures.
look at the side image, notice the space in between the fish. They're not just right on top of each other. And so the next thing to look at would be density or height. Height is a lot more important to you on sonar than width will ever be when you're trying to identify the gross size of a particular school of fish, how big those fish are in that school. You know how sonar works, depending on how fast you move over the fish or how fast the fish moves under you, the width of that arc can vary. If that fish is kind of swimming with you, that arc might look real wide, but if he's going this way and you're going this way, that arc might look real narrow, but the height can't change.
Belly to back.
The height, the height of the fish, how tall is the fish? And one thing that I always like to look for when if I'm really trying to go find a school that's holding some big bass, if you'll look on the side of your graph, it has those increments, and a lot of times when you're in 20 foot, that deal on the side will be in 2 foot increments or 5 foot increments. Well, you can kind of tell a foot in those increments. So when I see arcs on my graph, I want to see like a bass that is a foot tall. Now, if you think a bass that's 12 inches tall, think about, hey, you know what I'm saying? Now so if you got a bass that's that tall from belly to back, then now you got something going, right? That's the kind you want out here. And I think that I have some images that we can pass around on my phone that might have some good height references.
Thank you, brother.
Okay, so you can kind of see, if you look over here, you'll see 15 and 20, and you'll kind of see how a couple of these bass, they look like they're close. If they're not a foot tall, they're 10 inches tall, and I'll take that all day. So show that to the camera real quick. Then we'll pass this around. If it starts to go dim, just tap it before it goes black, okay? Or it'll turn off on you. And then I got that password on there, some old lady can't get in my phone. You know what I'm saying?
That's why I got 2.
I'm just kidding. I use one password for everything, and she knows it. So, but that's the other deal. So to gauge the size of them. So now you know how many people didn't know that about how the bass position together versus the other species? Is that new to anybody in here? Just a couple? So this was a terrible topic.
No, I think it's a big deal. You know,
It is a big deal.
We fish 7 days a week, and most
And if you'll notice, those fish in that picture out there are real spread out too, like we talked about, right?
that's a great. I mean, like perfect. And and that's not a huge school, but you know, not all these schools are huge. But most of the folks that get in my boat, I mean, when we drive over a school of fish, we turn around and catch them. I mean, it's a big deal. It's not something they've done a whole bunch. And this lake is about as good as it gets for doing that. Now, you can go to some other lakes and catch more fish, but man, it's not many lakes where you drive over a school of fish, turn around and tell somebody we're finna whack these fish, and you turn around and you catch them, and there's like 8 to 10 pounders in there. Just not
when
a
you
whole
drive
lot of
over one of them
places.
foot tall fish and you go, hey, you're fixing to catch one that's that tall.
And you look at
And they're like, what?
And especially when you get dialed in. So like you said, it's interpretation. The more you see these things, the more you can interpret it. And I'll tell you guys something else that's really good. I tend to keep my side scan on 60 foot.
I run the same thing.
And my down and sonar on 30 or 35 foot, usually 30. And that way, everything looks the same. It always looks the same.
That's a really good deal. And I heard you talk about that when we shot that video, and I heard it more when I was doing the editing this week on that video to produce it. But I've never done that. I've always left it on auto where how many people leave their down scan and their sonar on auto adjust where it auto adjusts the height?
Yeah. And so I've done.
This is so simple and so brilliant because if you have a standard, now you always have the same. You're always looking at the same size. So instead of being a ding dong like me over here trying to compute what a foot is, you just get to a point where you see them the same size all the time. That was great.
And they're all the same size. So and that's a really good deal. And I typically run. Now this is assuming I'm fishing. Well, I run 60s, kind of the minimum I run. But if I get out pretty deep, if I'm out in that 25 to 30 foot of water, I might kick out to 80. I get a little bit better picture because I'm so low. But typically, I'm running 30 foot on my downrange, and I'm running 60 foot out on my side imaging.
I'm gonna show these one more. Now this is gonna be more images for you guys to see how bass are gripped up because all of these are these are all bass that we caught at the school. We caught fish out of that school, so we know for a fact they're bass and they're good bass. So I'm gonna show that to the camera. And I'll pass that around. Keep going, Ron. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's all I had. Now I'm ready for my steak and sets. Who's going to sets tonight?
Everybody's going to say any questions about anything, any techniques, anything that we can talk about for this tournament or anything else that you guys want to talk about? Fishing, non-fishing, whatever.
Y'all ain't fishing any shallow, right?
I am. There's a really good topwater bite early in the morning on a walking bait, a small walking bait though. We're not throwing that big mega one like we were.
Yeah, that was a totally different. I'm not because I don't want to. Does that make sense?
It's there though.
Good.
There's we're catching some good fish. In fact, it was just a couple weeks ago when we started up there and they just kept biting. We just never, on that group trip, we just never left because they just kept biting. But most days I'm spending basically until the sun starts shining real bright up shallow, and then as soon as the sun stops shining, I'll leave.
I fished shallow Sunday morning, and I didn't do real good. And that's the last day I've been in less than like 15 feet of water.
The deal for me first thing in the morning shallow is if you've got a point and you got grass on it, and so you got to get up back in these creeks. But if you got like just a little point that has some grass on it, I can catch them on them little small walking baits on top.
And I would say that there's still some fish up shallow. Looking back, we're behind about a month.
Way behind.
And looking back, I had one year where we had 3 overs the day before the Skeeter Owners Tournament, and we caught one of those overs on a super spook that morning. No, we caught one of those overs on a Sammy that morning. A Sammy, just a walking bait.
Yeah.
And then we caught 2 overs on a football jig. But we started that morning started that morning throwing a topwater. And
it's there. It's
there.
And
I'm just not doing it.
And if you want to fish grass, there's a little bit. If you have wind,
there's a lot of bit.
If you have, we got a lot of grass. And if you want to get back in these creeks and fish that grass, I have done that a little bit. It's not most days. I would say over the past week to 10 days, I've bailed on it just because the offshore stuff's been getting real good. You know what I mean? Like it's not because that bite's not there. But what I have done, I need wind. And I need a little bit of a depth change. I need like a drain in the grass. And if I have wind and I have that drain with a good edge of grass on it where the grass starts to scatter, then a chatterbait's been the deal. And I'm using the Impact Shad as my trailer on that chatterbait. And I change to that every year as the water heats up. That Impact Shad, it's got that little joint, that little thin tail. And it's just a real fast action on that Impact Shad on the back of a chatterbait. And it's dynamite. I mean, it's a little bit longer profile than your normal chatterbait. And we catch a lot of really big fish up shallow in grass on that rig. And to be honest with you, now that more and more people are going out deep, I'll start going back to that shallow stuff more now than I have been. There's always a window for me on the offshore deal. I try to be one of the early ones out there, and then as everybody starts getting out there and those schools start kind of moving around more and getting harder to pin down, those ones that are pinned down, when they start getting pressure and they kind of break up and they're not always there and your timing's got to be just perfect, I tend to go back to that grass, and that's when I go there. So for you guys that are fishing this weekend, I don't think it's a bad idea at all to go grass hunting and pick that chatterbait up. I've caught many of overs over the years in grass this time of year on the edges next to creek channels and drains. In fact, I myself caught a 10-pound, 6-ounce fish last year right at this time in that exact scenario. I caught it on the grass spoon, but yep, exact same deal.
What colors work well?
What's that?
Colors.
You know that Bee-Hike Delight? It's a chartreuse and white bottom and a green pumpkin top. I'm using the jackhammer, 3/8-ounce jackhammer, that Bee-Hike Delight, and I'm throwing the Houdini impact shad, and I'm dipping the tail in chartreuse, so it kind of matches that deal. Now it's one of the ugliest looking baits you'll ever see in that combo, because you got like kind of a shad looking trailer, and you got this weird looking green pumpkin chartreuse. I told him the other day, I said, look at that thing, it's ugly, but I catch them on it. That's been the best color for the bigger bites, but we're catching more on a like a smoke shad color. It's that gray shad color chatterbait, and I'm using the smoke on the watercolor impact shad. It's just a grayish silverish color combo. But that's the two we're using, and we're catching fish on both. Boy, y'all got me talking about grass. Guess what I'm gonna do next week?
Go to Rayburn.
Go to Rayburn, boy. I'm telling you. We got our little mini heated Rayburn down the road.
Yeah.
Over there at Wells, we got all the grass over there we could ever hope for.
Yeah.
Any other questions, concerns, comments? I know there's got to be something.
Complaints.
That's right. You can give those to the state trooper, wherever he is. All right. Well, hey, man, if that's it, let me tell you guys, thank you first and foremost. Y'all are the most important thing. We want to thank the support that we get is pretty incredible, pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I started doing this YouTube deal as a way to kind of market a business. It's kind of funny. If y'all got time for a brief story, I'll kind of tell you the way this whole deal started.
Oh, man.
Shut up. You shut up. You shut up. I was part-time guiding and working another job. Like, I was doing both. I hate to say either one was part-time because I felt full-time at both. I was working all the time. And was trying to figure out, okay, I'm either going to quit guiding. Like, I came this close to not ever guiding full-time. Like, really close. I was just going to quit guiding and go back to being a weekend tournament fisherman like everybody else. Or I was going to figure out a way to drive this business and grow this business and jump into it full-time. And I did some research, and just the online video for fishing videos on YouTube and stuff was going crazy that year. That was the year that we were graced with the Guggen Squad, you might say. That was the year they started growing and doing their thing. And so I decided, okay, well, if some teenage kids can get that much attention, surely I can get enough attention to grow my business through YouTube. And I talked to some other guys about it, and we wanted, trying to get them to work with me on it. And we started making videos. And I would have never imagined it happened like that. And that's because of all of you and all of you. And I just can't tell you guys thank you enough. I literally live my dream every day because of each and every one of you guys. So that's why, my kids got a theater play going on tonight, and I'm here. And that's why I stay up all night editing videos with instruction and sharing, just experiences and information trying to help you guys. Because I know, I'm very aware of where I came from and how close I was to this not even happening. And if it wasn't for each and every one of you guys in the room and all of you that watch online, I know I wouldn't be here. And so, thank you guys very much for everything that y'all do for me and Ronnie and all of us here at Lake Fork. There's a whole bunch of businesses around here that couldn't exist without you guys. And so we all really appreciate it from the bottom of our heart. And I'll make you a promise. I'll never stop being as open as I can be with information. I'll never stop helping you as much as I can, no matter what people say to try and deter us from it or make us stop doing it. None of that will ever change. We will always do the best we can to help you guys as much as we can, to say thank you, because y'all are why we're here. So that being said, go eat some steak next door, or go to Seth's and hang out with this knucklehead some more if you want to laugh a little bit. And we'll see y'all next time.
I won't really tell you nothing. I'm not gonna tell them where I'm fishing. I got my top secret guide holes and stuff. Like I'm not gonna tell that dude anything. Probably not these dudes.
I definitely wouldn't tell Leo.
And if I do, you gotta kind of decipher through the lies, because fishing wouldn't be what it was without liars. It's just true. If they just came in here and all told us how bad it sucked today, it would be a horrible story, right? So, with that, thank you guys.
He's a knucklehead, but he's our knucklehead.
I mean, same thing. I appreciate it, you guys, everybody. I get comments on the lake. Man, I got guys that I'll pull up to a spot and they'll see it's me and they'll leave. And man, you don't ever have to do that. I appreciate that. It's never expected, but it's appreciated. And I don't expect you to do it. I don't even want you to do it, but I do appreciate it.
It's awesome. It's awesome how much you guys come up and thank us. So thank y'all. And we'll see y'all next time. Thanks.